Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about the brand new American comic book, DCKO #1. So this was written by Scott Snyder. Absolutely fantastic job on this comic book. I was absolutely blown away. We are going to talk major spoilers for this comic book, but I wanted to dig into this because I think this is a truly historic event within DC Comics. So I thought that this was going to be kind of like Fight Club for DC, which I had already seen this in X-Men versus Avengers, right? So they did a huge crossover. It was a really good crossover for Marvel, X-Men versus Avengers, and they had entire books that were just like, I think it was The Thing versus Namor, right? And it was an entire comic book where those two fought. And so they were like, okay, there's going to be these huge, like fights between the X-Men and between the Avengers, and so it was, Cyclops versus Captain America, right? And it was nothing but that in that comic book, just that one fight between those two people. So I thought, okay, well, that's what we're going to get with this DCKO. So there is an element of this being a DC hero villain, a DC hero, actually a DC hero, heroes versus heroes, right? Of this being a DC heroes fight club, right? There is an aspect of that. But what really blew me away, so I started reading this. I picked it up off the shelves, and it was interesting to see. So first of all, I had already read a preview of this in another comic book, and I will say, I understand that DC needs to do that to sell these comic books, but it was a little frustrating because I get this comic and and I had been looking forward to it for about a month. They were like, "Hey, this is coming," and I was like, "Okay, I'm definitely going to buy that. I'm definitely going to buy this DCKO crossover, right?" And what I mean by that, I'm going to buy DCKO 1, DCKO 2, DCKO 3, DCKO 4, and DCKO 5, right? That's 5 comics. That's all I'm committing to buying. Because whenever they do these crossovers, they're like, well, there's I think there's like 20 books just this month that are going to have, and so they're like, buy Teen Titans because it's got the, DCKO, label on the top, and there's going to be, I'm like, I'll buy DCKO 1 through 5. I'm not going to commit to all that other stuff, right? And I might buy 1 or 2 of them, but I don't feel any compulsion to buy more than DCKO 1 through 5, right? So we get this, and it's it comes in, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking forward to this. But when I start reading the book, I'm like, oh, I already read the first 3, 4, 5 pages of this, right? And I don't want to read them again, right? So even though it was a month ago, right? And so I skipped the first 3 pages, and they were very skippable because it was like Clark Kent sitting down with friends playing almost a Warhammer 20K fight game with the DC characters. Like, oh, what if we had a war game? A war game, with these characters, which actually is ironic because we actually do have that. We literally have a Warhammer 40K analog that is, it's quite real, right? So I was like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. So I skipped the first 3 pages. Then there's 10 or 12 pages of this comic where there's no fighting. It's just a bunch of people talking about fighting that needs to be done. And so immediately I was like, oh, I don't like this, right? I don't like all this talking about fighting. Where's the fighting, right? Well, Scott Snyder knew what he was doing, right? So he brings in this group called the Chronal Conclave, and it's Gorilla Grodd and World Forger and Booster Gold and one other dude, right? And they're like the Watcher, right, for Marvel, and they're like, oh, we're here to witness, and and so what they say is, hey, this is your world is about to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed in 7 days from now, and it's going to be destroyed by Darkseid. And so the moment they say that, one, they've already been dealing with parademons all over the world, right? And they've been salting that through all the comics for like a year and a half, right? Like, so they've been building this up, right? And now I didn't see any of that, not in the books that I was reading, right? But I believe it, right? So they're like, hey, you know, Darkseid's going to come and he's going to destroy this whole world. Now, why is he going to be able to do this, right? Well, the reason why is Darkseid is from the absolute world. Absolute Batman, absolute Wonder Woman, absolute Superman, absolute Green Lantern, absolute Martian Manhunter, that absolute world. And I had been collecting the number ones of that for the last year, collecting them and reading them. And they're fantastic. I really, really like them, right? And so what I loved was they were like, hey, this Darkseid, he created the absolute world, and he got a lot of Omega energy from that world, this conquering energy, right? And he's going to come over to this, and he's been in the absolute world, and he's going to come over to this world, and he's going to defeat everyone, and he's going to make this world his. Everybody you know is going to be subjugated, right, or killed, right? And so these guys are like, we're only here to tell you that this is going to happen so that you can make peace with your people and just give you a little bit of forethought. You know, like, we're not even saying you could defeat this, because you know, Darkseid he's coming and he is gonna win. It's already happened. It's happened 7 days from now. We're giving you 7 days warning, just so you can set your affairs right. You know, tell your people you love them and be ready to die, right? So Batman's like, nah, we ain't doing that, right? We're gonna defeat Darkseid, right? And they're like, well, there's no way to defeat Darkseid because he has all this Omega energy, right? And so Batman's like, well, we could do it, you know. Darkseid's getting all this Omega energy from the heart of the, I think it's called the heart of the world, which is like, yeah. And so basically, he has fought on all these different worlds, and he's gotten this Omega energy. So Batman's like, Booster Gold, you were with him through this whole thing, and you know that we could get Omega energy if we, like, took control of the heart of the world, right? And he's like, yeah, but you would, you know, the only way to do that, you'd have to, like, you know, the best of the best of you would have to do that, and they'd have to fight everyone else to do it. And it's like, okay, well, we'll put on a tournament, and our heroes will defeat all the other heroes, right? And we'll get this Omega energy we need to defeat Apocalypse. And so I was hooked. I was like, okay, that was a lot of talky talk. I'm in. That makes sense. And I think the reason why I loved it was it rewarded me for collecting Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman. I was very impressed. I was very impressed that they were like, hey, let's do this, right? Like, we're going to reward you for having collected Absolute Batman. It's just an Elseworlds title, but it's going to tie in with the main title, right? And then they gave an actual reason for why this tournament would be actually necessary. So while I thought, oh, this is stupid, I don't really want to see this, you know, I don't really want to, you know, see, this is stupid, right? I really thought, you know, this isn't a great idea. But I was wrong. Like, the Scott Snyder's reason for why the tournament would happen was absolutely freaking brilliant, and really did establish a great, worthwhile story that was worth reading. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.